My name is Daniel, and for most of my life, people thought I had it all figured out. I built a company from nothing, watched it grow into something worth more money than I ever imagined. Corner office, first-class flights, a house people slow down to stare. They called me driven, focused, successful. But what they didn't call me was present.
I'm 75 years old, and there's something I need to admit, a truth I should have seen decades ago. For most of my life, I thought I was building a business, an empire, but I wasn't. I was building an excuse, an elaborate, all-consuming excuse to avoid my own life. Let me take you back. I was 31 when I got married, young, ambitious, full of fire. I had a vision, a plan mapped out in my head. I promised my wife Sarah that all the late nights, the missed dinners, the constant travel, it was all temporary. Just a few more years. I'd tell her, holding her hand, just until things stabilize. Once we get this next contract, once we hit that next milestone, everything will change. That one word once became the thief of my life. It was a moving target, a horizon that receded every time I got close. It was the lie I told myself so I could keep running. Our son Michael was born on a Tuesday afternoon. I wasn't there. I was in a boardroom, finalizing a deal that I was convinced would change our lives forever. It did, just not in the way I expected. I arrived at the hospital hours later, still in my suit, my tie slightly loosened. The smell of antiseptic clashed with the scent of my cologne. I remember seeing my son for the first time, this tiny, perfect human, and my first instinct was to check my email. I told Sarah I'd make it up to them. I'd be more present. Later, but later never came. The years that followed are a blur of spreadsheets, flights, and missed moments. I missed school plays, I missed parent-teacher conferences, I missed weekend breakfasts, the simple joy of pancakes and laughter. I missed the conversations that only happen late at night, when a child feels safe enough to share their fears and dreams. I was the ghost in our own house. I provided for them. Yes, the house was big, the schools were good, the vacations were luxurious, but I wasn't there. My physical presence was just a placeholder. I remember one evening, so clearly, it still aches. I was in my home office, buried in paperwork. Michael, who must have been about 7 at the time, quietly pushed the door open. He was holding a small, brightly colored box, a new toy. He wanted to show me how it worked. His eyes were wide with excitement. I didn't even look up from my desk. I just waved a hand and said, "Not now, son, I'm busy." He stood there for a moment, his little shoulders slumping. Then he nodded, turned around, and walked away. He never asked again. Years later, long after he'd grown up and moved out, I was cleaning out the attic. I found that box. Still unopened. The plastic wrap was dusty, the colors faded. He had saved it, or maybe he just forgot about it. Either way, it sat there, a monument to a moment I threw away. A 5-minute interruption I couldn't afford. The cost of that "not now" was immeasurable. By the time the company became a headline, a roaring success story in business magazines, my marriage had already ended. There was no dramatic fight, no shouting match. It just dissolved, like sugar in water. It was a slow, silent erosion of connection. One day, I looked across the dinner table, one of the rare dinners I was actually home for, and I was looking at a stranger. She didn't leave because I failed. She left because I was never there. I was an email address, a bank account, but I wasn't a husband. Even then, I didn't stop. I kept working. I buried myself even deeper. That's the part nobody tells you about ambition. Success can be a powerful anesthetic. It can distract you from your pain just long enough for that pain to become a permanent part of you. The awards, the recognition, the money, it was all a loud noise to drown out the silence at home. At 62, my body finally forced the issue. It staged a rebellion, a heart attack. It happened late at night, alone in my office, of course. The irony wasn't lost on me. As I lay on the floor, waiting for the paramedics, I grabbed my phone. My thumb hovered over the contacts, and I realized, with a terrifying clarity, there was no one to call. My ex-wife had moved on. My son was a distant acquaintance. My business partners would see me as a liability. Lying in that sterile hospital bed, surrounded by the rhythmic beeping of machines, I finally understood. The business, my life's work, could survive without me. In fact, it would probably thrive with fresh leadership. My family, however, had already learned to survive without me years ago. They had moved on. I was the one left behind. I sold the company a few years after that. The money was staggering, a number I couldn't have even dreamed of when I started. The applause from the business world was loud, but it faded quickly, and then there was just silence. A profound, deafening silence that filled my big, empty house. The silence I had spent my entire life running from had finally caught me. My son and I talk now. We have lunch once a month. It's polite. It's careful. We talk about the weather, about the stock market, about safe, neutral topics, but we don't have stories. We don't have inside jokes. We don't have a shared history of spontaneous, unimportant moments. You can't build a lifetime of memories retroactively. You can't go back and unmiss a school play. You can't go back and open a toy with a 7-year-old boy. The foundation was never laid. So here's the truth I had to learn at 75, a lesson that cost me everything that mattered. Your work will replace you. The moment you are gone, someone else will sit at your desk, answer your emails, and continue your projects. But your family won't. Your spot at the dinner table, the sound of your laugh in the hallway, your hand in theirs, that space can never truly be filled. No one remembers the nights you stayed late at the office to finish a report. They don't give out awards for most missed dinners. But the people you love, they remember every single time you didn't show up. They remember the empty chair. They remember the promises of later. If you're watching this and you're telling yourself, I'll slow down later, or my situation is different, please, listen to me. I was you. I told myself the exact same things. I believed I was the exception. But time doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your quarterly goals or your 5-year plan. It just keeps moving. And one day, without warning, you will run out of it. So, please, for me, for yourself, close the laptop. Just for tonight. Go sit with your child. Put your phone away all the way away. Ask about their day, and listen. Really listen. To the answer, hug your partner. Call your parents. Be present in your own life. Because success isn't the company you build or the money you make. It's who is still standing beside you when everything else is gone. Don't wait until you're 75 and sitting in an empty house to learn this lesson. Learn it now. Thanks for listening.